Welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. Man, do I miss this music. It's been a week. I apologize for missing last week. No excuses. I don't like making excuses. It is what it is. If y'all really want to know, you can ask in the comments. I'll answer you. Maybe I might joke around with you, whatever. But we're back, and you are getting a double upload of Witch on the Holy Night, which honestly, what more could you ask for? I think reparations have been made. I think we're all happy. I think we're all having fun. Let us continue from where we left off. I remember everything, but not exactly from where we left off. Looks like we're on chapter number 10. Howling. You want to move, please? Thank you. This everyday tale, wow, everyday tale started like any other. No, not every tale starts like this. Come on. I miss a week and we start off with this music? Oh, y'all playing with me. Like, you missed me? Yes. I missed you. Hello. The morning sun alerted Sojiro that a day of work lay ahead. Specifically, the gardens needed tending to. And an unkept garden made for an unhappy Sojiro. Luckily, today was his day off from all his part-time jobs. It was the perfect opportunity to get his hands dirty. There was one problem, however. The mansion's grounds were vast. Not only had the courtyard been left to run wild, but the area around the front door had been neglected too. To tend to these problems thoroughly, he would have to work on them week in, week out.
Stop.
Just change the track, please. It's so good. In an ideal world, this task would only take a day. But for its enormity, for the moment, Sojiro decided to set foot into the mansion's wilderness and evict those weeds. Wasting none of early light, he started tackling the ones around the mansion. By his estimation, he would clear the forecourt, courtyard, and backyard, and take a small rest. It was just before noon in the sunroom. Alice had come down, book in hand, to find... I can't do this, guys. Can you guys read, bro? Can I just listen to the music as you guys read? Can we do that? Like, you don't even have to buy the game if I do that. Like, I'm giving you the game for free. Like, can we just, like, can that just be our relationship? Like, can we stop this, like, commentary thing and post commentary? Like, who needs it? Back in the day, there was no commentary. You threw on the TV, and the TV was TV. Nobody talked. You know what I mean? Back in the day, I used to just play games. I didn't have to talk over it. Oh, my God. They gotta stop playing these heat tracks. To find Alko sitting down with a fashion magazine. And don't drop the beat. Oh, my. Elegantly sipping tea. Through the window, she could see, I can't do this. I can't do it. Yo, oh my God. Through the window, she could see the crowd. What do you mean, doodle? Hey, I can't. Please. Oh my God. Before every recording now, I'm just going to listen to the music for an hour before I record, just so I can get used to it. Because holy crap. Through the window, she could see the crouched figure of Sojiro shuffling by. Alice quietly sat down. Her teacup had been placed. Why is her hair in my mouth? We'll talk about it. On the table for her. She poured herself some tea and proceeded to open her book. two sat passing the time in silence, having happened to have the same idea, a nice relaxed cup of tea in the sunroom. With their evening roles decided, there was no need for idle chatter. Alko stared out the window, intermittently, turning her gaze to her magazine. Alice was immersed in a book on rune magecraft, occasionally tilting her head up as if to recall something. As if by unspoken agreement, in unison, they pressed their teacups to their lips and glanced outside. To the two girls, Sojiro appeared as if he were an animal in a zoo. Neither was interested in lending it a hand. Despite his sluggish movement, he was making good progress. As Alko's attention turned back to the sunroom, I said this in one of the last episodes, but I know like a year from now, after this series is over, listening to this music is going to kill me, man. As Alko's attention turned back to the sunroom, her eyes met with Alice's. Alice returned her gaze to her book, though moments later, she raised her head again. Canonically the fastest character in Wish on the Holy Night. What if he's actually moving that fast and it's not even an exaggeration? Ooh! Okay. I think, they did say he was a good runner. Clearing her throat, she attempted to focus on reading. It was no surprise that Alice admired Sojiro's diligence. Not even 30 minutes had passed before he had cleared the courtyard of its unsightly weeds. Without stopping once, the mysterious gardener left the courtyard puffing clouds of white breath. The area he left behind was spotless. Alice muttered after scanning over his work. A stalwart Sojiro worked confidently and ceaselessly. She was impressed, like she was watching a scene from a great movie. Before long, she grew irked. Why would he waste his energy like that, she thought. Alice looked at the clock.
焼却炉。今から手入れをしたら夕方ね。そっちはもう終わってるわ。朝上から見てたもの。壊されちゃいけないからあれこれ指示出してね。いやー、窓開けて散々となったから部屋が冷えること冷えること。
It was safe to assume Alko had come to the sunroom to escape her cold room. Between barking orders from a window and cleaning in the cold, it was clear who had the harder job.
しずきくん、何か言ってこなかった？言ってたけど、よく聞こえなかったわ。
In other words, his complaints fell on deaf ears. With nothing else to discuss, the two resumed their reading. The ever so tense silence was broken by Sojiro, entering the house after finishing his cleaning. He stared at the two of them, displeased. Oh my god, I forgot to do something super important. Edit.
外よりは幾分ね。廊下の気温は外とあまり変わらないけど。それでどうして庭の掃除なんて始めたのよ、宗十郎。
Sojiro's subtle jibe had failed to find his target. He had no chance of winning, and so just hung his shoulders in defeat.
今日は本当に寒い。明日あたり雪でも降ってくるだろうから、外の掃除は早くに済ませたかったのに。焼却炉は予定外だったぞ。
He sounded resentful, but his problem was not with the additional work. If anything, he was glad to do it. What he did not care for was how nobody had even bothered to lend a hand.
いいじゃない。焼却炉はみんな使うんだから。じゃ、その首相な心がけついでに2階の廊下に掃除機かけといてね。それと裏庭のブナの添え木壊れかけてたでしょ。工具箱はあんたの部屋に置きっぱなしだからそれを使うこと。で、全部終わったら私の部屋に来てくれる？いらないものまとめておくから焼却炉で焼いておいて。
Hence why she made him clean the incinerator. Cruel, but clever.
それで青崎、君は何をするんだ？
そうね、やることもないし、ギターにでも触ってようかしら。
Akko thought hard about how to spend her afternoon, yet the thought of cleaning did not cross her mind, as had always been the case. No, it was not out of spite that she did not think to help clean. It was because the word cleaning was not in her vocabulary. Sojiro knew exactly why the mansion was in the state it was in. Still, that did not change the fact that the corridor upstairs was very long, and Akko was not lying about how cold it was inside. It was not much different than outside.
そうか。あくまで掃除をする気はないんだな、青崎。まあ、掃除はしたいからするけど、こう、なんだろう。一緒に住んでる人間をそこまでこき使って、両親は痛まないか？それとも、割と気づいてはいたけど、両親そのものがないのか？
As usual, he might have gone too far. His remarks had hit too close to home. Akko closed her magazine and turned to face him. Infuriated, she glared, her sharp blue eyes piercing into him. Sojiro knew he had not said anything unjust, but he always backed down first.
宗十郎、何度も言うようだけど。
はい。
He replied automatically, straining his back in response to Akko's cold, calm tone.
勘違いはしないで。私たちはあんたを同居させてあげてるんじゃない。これ以上ないって譲歩の末、仕方なく飼ってあげてるだけなんだからね。
Akko did not mince her words. Sojiro nodded in defeat.
そうか。飼ってもらってるのか。
そう。番犬にもならないだろうけど。
Akko responded, already tired of the conversation. While Sojiro had little room to counter, he still tried.
しかし一方、番犬は間違っても自分の食い縁を入れたり、天津さえ家賃を払ったりしないのも事実であった。
なんか言った？
いや、負け犬の遠吠えを少しばかり。
He raised his hand dismissively, knowing he could not win. To Akko's ears, his attempt at self-deprecation sounded facetious, I think?
宗十郎、あんた、本当にわかってる？
そうだな。君たちがどうあっても掃除をする気がないぐらいは、なんとか。
Akko grinned at her pet's obedience. As long as he knew his place, that was all that mattered to her. She seemed to be extremely satisfied with her response.
余裕あるんだ、しずきくんってば。
Her playful smile darkened, as did Sojiro's expression.
青崎、なんだか息ができないんだけど。
このまま放っておくと、そんなことも言ってられなくなるんだけど、試してみる？
He shook his head, his expression growing more and more grim.
懸命ね。私も窒息したいなんて見たくないもの。
The grating sound subsided. Sojiro's gingerly touched his throat. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. The collar that had suddenly tightened around his neck returned to its normal size.
気管が塞がれた時の苦しさを知らないんだろう、青崎は。本当に抵抗できなくなるんだぞ、あれは。
だからそのための首輪だって言ったでしょ？今まで実践したことなかったし、あんたは相変わらず危機感ないし、ここらで一度しつけておいたの。それより掃除、急がないと日が暮れるんじゃないの？は
あ、わかったよ。結局、今日はこうなる星の運びだったんだ。
Sojiro left the sunroom, his shoulders slumped and his tail between his legs. Akko watched him leave before turning to her magazine as if nothing happened. Alice paid no attention. None of that had anything to do with her. With Sojiro gone, the room once again fell silent. As the clock ticked on, Alice suddenly stopped flipping through her book
どうして彼を酷使するの？
She asked, as though talking to herself. Akko replied without so much as looking up.
別に最後には記憶を消させてもらうんだから楽しかったら困るじゃない。
Obscure as ever, but sincere in her own way.
そう。言われてみればそうだったわね。
Alice could not believe she had forgotten about the situation. Silently, she looked up from her book and gazed outside once again. The courtyard through the window reminded her of where she lived a decade ago. Nothing could compare to the beauty of those gardens. But if that was the case, why did the scenery make her feel nostalgic? All Sojiro had done was take care of the garden with the goodness of his own heart. In only half a day, he had achieved so much. It was Christmas Eve, and snow had started to fall. Is this new? Oh! Oh, I knew it. I knew it was a new version. Okay, calm down. It's all good. You'll live. You'll live. Its timing was too good. As though it had... Oh my... Come on, guys. When I tell you the main theme of the game is literally the reason I bought it, it's no joke. I said this before, but I was playing the demo, and then I left after being the first chapter. I was like kind of bored, but then I went down and like the menu on PS4, and not this song specifically, but the main theme started playing, and I was like, oh, I'm getting this. This is so much. Oh my! Shout out to all the composers. This is multiple on this game. Shout out to you guys. Its timing was too good, as though it had waited for that day specifically. The cold, bustling main street seemed bright and vibrant under the layer of frosty white. Reindeer statues illuminated the surroundings. Children danced merrily to jingle bells. People walked along the brick road, smiling broadly. These festivities, however, had not reached the mansion on the hill. Silence enveloped the isolated building. The shadow of snow-covered woodland grew longer, beckoning in the darkness. People returned to the warmth of their homes, knowing a better night lay ahead. Something had been amiss in the mansion all day. Perhaps it was the calm before the storm. 2 days had passed since Toko Awazaki had revealed herself. Alice and Alko spent more and more time locked in their rooms. Meal times had grown noticeably quieter. With their roles decided, they were too busy with their own jobs to worry about each other. On this day, the two had been relaxing in the drawing room since morning. The mood was calm. Well, mostly at least. Sojiro was fretting that tonight would be the same.
雪が明日ならよかったのに。
He aimed his words towards the girls on the sofa, despite knowing they would be ignored. Whether the snow fell today, tomorrow, or not at all, it did not affect them. The snow just meant a white Christmas. Akko remained silent. She wasn't ignoring him per se, but she did have other things on her mind. I heard from, I think, Majin Obama, who is a fighting game player. He's very into the Type Moon stuff, the Fate Grand Order, so if you're into that, he might be your guy. But I think he had said that Christmas is more, in Japan, it's more of a couples holiday, so it's not really like give gifts to your family, whatever, which is interesting. I wonder what's going to happen here, I guess. Sojiro knew this, but still cast a lonely glance around the sunroom. The courtyard he had cleaned only a few days ago was hidden by a layer of white. The falling snow would stop every so often, but then resume again, as if teasing Sojiro. By the next morning, the courtyard would be a winter wonderland. Alko and Alice sipped tea in an effort to fight the cold. In fact, that was all they were doing.
そういえば、トウコさんの髪の色は青崎より濃かったね。あんな綺麗な赤毛は初めて見た。短くしてるのはもったいなかったな。
Sojiro rambled on, not expecting a response. However,
短かったって姉貴の髪が？
Alco's expression went from nonchalant to its usual sharpness.
それどういうこと？短くしてるって髪の毛のことよね。
ああ、アリスより短かったけど、それがどうしたんだ？
別に、あの人前は私より長かったってだけ。そう、あの髪を切ったのね、姉貴は。
Alco spoke in a grave tone. Showing slight interest, Alice turned to Sojiro.
普通じゃないな。髪を切ったぐらいでどうしたんだ一体。瞳子さんの髪が短いと青崎が困るのか？
まあその通りだけど。いいわ、どうせ夜まで暇だし説明ぐらいはしてあげる。あんたがそんなこと言わなければ未知数のまま瞳子と戦う羽目になっただろうし。
Alco knowingly glanced at Alice, her expression suggesting she was treating her. She was also likely seeking approval. Alice remained stoic as ever, her expression showing neither approval nor disapproval.
簡単に言うと、魔術師にとっては髪の毛も武器ってことよ。
Amelia Rage?
昔から人間の髪や目は魔術の材料になりやすいの。女の場合はことさらにね。瞳の色は多いほどいいし、髪も長いほど質がいい。髪の毛は自身と同一視しやすいし、長い年月をかけて育てられる原始的で強力な原料と思ってくれていいわ。私が髪を伸ばしてるのはまあそういうこと。手入れが大変なんだけど、そこは女だから半分趣味みたいなもんよね。
Sojiro glanced furtively at Alice, wondering if the same held true for her. Maybe Alice had cut it because it was a hassle to maintain. It sounded stupid, but then again, this was Alice. Sojiro nodded to himself.
じゃあ青崎としてはいいことじゃないか。瞳子さんの髪短いんだから。
それがここに来る前に使い切ったものならいいんだけど、伸ばした髪にはいろいろと使い道があるのよ。私は瞬間的な術の強化にしか使えないけど、姉貴だったら高級的な術の補佐に使うはず。年月と想念を蓄えた髪は魔術師の分身とも言える。そういったものをね、死んじゃった犬だの猫だのを反言させるときに与えると、術者に服従する使い魔が出来上がるの。生前魔力のなかった使い魔、例えば猫とか犬ね。これらは術者の髪を取り込んで独自の魔術回路を得る。申請することで全く違う生き物、猫の魔術師になるってこと。例えば人語を介したり人間に化けてみたりって。行動原理も変わってしまって、大抵は術者に似通った性格になるわ。そうよね、アリス。
Her last words came with a mocking smile. Alice silently ignored it.
じゃあ瞳子さんにはアリスのみたいな使い魔がいると。
そう見るのが妥当でしょうね。姉貴は20年以上伸ばし続けた髪と引き換えに強力な使い魔を用意したってことよ。
The fight at the amusement park. Just the thought of Alice Kuonji releasing flat snark sent a shiver down Sojiro's spine. The oil of the moon had been a unique familiar out of this world.
ほら、そこ心配しない。三崎町をぶっ壊す規模の使い魔なんてありっこないから。
Doesn't she want to take over Misaki anyway? No, she just wants to take what Alice loves.
確かに
Or Alco.
長く歴史のある髪を使用するほど強力な使い魔が出来上がる。けど髪を使った魔術師はそれまで溜め込んできた山中のうちの一つを初めからやり直さないといけない。切った髪はまた伸ばさないといけないでしょ。使い魔を作るのは簡単だけど、そう多く従えないのはそういうことなの。
As Alco spoke, her mood visibly improved, as though she had made a breakthrough.
犬とか猫か。
Tilting his head aside, You cannot imagine a world where dogs and cats were so powerful.
変ね。瞳子さんは人魚師よ。スカイマを作って自分のレベルを下げるのは協力者がいないだけでしょ。青崎のお家騒動に人の手を借りたくないから自分だけで全部やるつもりなのよ。あ、もしかして遊園地の人形って羽木の紙で作られたんじゃないだろうな。確かに話に聞いた限りだと特注品ね。呪いによる永久期間、両手のギミック、フィンの一撃、執念深さ。瞳子さんでもゼロから作るのは難しいでしょうけど。けど何よアリス。あの人は人形に自己を投影するような人じゃないわ。完璧な偽物なら許すけど、偽物に過ぎない偽物は容赦なく壊してきた。青子から見てその特注人形は瞳子さんと同じ力量を持っていた。まさか遠く及ばないわよ、あんなの。なら瞳子さんの髪とあの人形は別件よ。あの人が自分の魔力を分け与えたほどの使い魔があと一体はいると見るべきね。専門家としての意見。つまりその使い魔は姉貴より強い。そうでないと意味がないわ。人手が足りないというのもあるでしょうけど、だって私たちは2人、彼女は1人だもの。同時制圧も想定済みってわけ。なるほどね。その場合どっちが強い方を引き当てても恨みっこなしよ、アリス。こと使いまであんたが遅れを取るとは思えないけど。
Alice had never been defeated by a familiar. She sighed at Alco's overconfidence.
青子、たとえ20年間の蓄えを付与したとしてもその器が小動物では限度があるわ。あの瞳子さんが切り札になる使い魔を用意したのなら、それはよしてよ。いくらなんでも姉貴はそこまで悪趣味じゃないわ。
Alco and Alice stared at each other. The conversation had returned to the drawing room, but the subject matter was not for the faint of heart.
そうね。けれど人間を追い詰めるのに最も効果的な相手はやっぱり人間なのよ。瞳子さんが死者を亡者にしていなくてもそれと同格の相手がいるぐらいは覚悟しておいて。はいはい、分かったわよ。確かに天才ってやつは空気読めないから、どんな生き物の死体を用意してきても驚かないわ。
Alco nodded reluctantly at Alice's directness. Needless to say, Sojiro was completely lost.
よくわからないけど、なんで青崎たちは死んでるってことに固執するんだ？生きてるものじゃダメなのか？
それは使い魔じゃなくて協力者でしょ。使い魔は基本術者なくしては生きられないものにしないと。それでいて優れた意志を持ち術者の資格や盲点を補える知性もある。それが一流の使い魔の条件よ。正直な話、それだけ都合のいいやつは死から作り直すしかないってわけ。
Completely obedient and capable of compensating for the mage's weaknesses, Sojiro felt that a familiar was little different than himself.
さて、姉貴は昔からルーン使いだったから戦術は予測できる。問題の切り札もどうやら使い魔らしい。自動人形もさすがにこの前で使い切っただろうし。
Akko spoke directly to Alice, looking for confirmation. Alice nodded in agreement.
じゃあ予定通り今日で終わりにしよう。この1ヶ月好き放題やられた借りぎった タンギッタンにしてあのバカ姉貴に返してやる。
Akko clenched her teeth and balled her fist. It all seemed like nothing more than a sibling rivalry. In fact, that's probably all it was. Looking at Alko, Sojiro had let out a sigh of relief. With what happened to Toko, and how they reacted to our visit, the atmosphere had been deathly tense. From now on, Akko seemed much calmer. He took comfort in the thought that perhaps the sisters would just bury the hatchet. Even if Alko and Toko were not sisters, he would not want to see what would happen if they fought. The hands of the clock turned gently, approaching Judgment Night, a merciless silence, which soon come to mock Sojiro's complacency. As night appeared, two things vanished. The first was the whimsical snowfall. The second was the light of the mansion on the top of the hill. Alko and Alice were nowhere to be seen inside. Only Sojiro remained. It was the night of Christmas Eve. Though Alko and Alice, the holy night. Hold up! How many chapters in this game? Don't tell me we're near the end. The holy night? I don't even know what that... I never even thought about that. Christmas. Witch on the holy night? Okay, come on. Power through. We're not there yet. How many episodes have we done of this? Like 10? There's no way we're done yet. Maybe 11, 12? We're not done. We're not close. We're not close. We still got time. We still got like 80 episodes left, guys. We're going to be here forever. The series will never end. It'll never end. Though Alko and Alice had yet to find Toko, they knew everything would be concluded over the course of this day and the next. Really? Christmas comes but once a year. It was a singular time for endings and new beginnings. In Japan, the modern holiday dated back to only about 100 years, and celebrated Christ's birth only in name, with all its latter-day trappings. It was neither a pure homage nor corrupt of the festival that inspired it. Regardless, there was a significant increase in the lad's mana during festivals. Wow. Such charge distortions were a boon to a mage's craft, be it creative or destructive. Toko Aozaki sought to destroy the local sigils, which gathered and properly cycled the magical energy of the land and its people. Sojiro was able to gather that much from Alko and Alice's conversation. Toko had already claimed 3 sigils. Only 2 remained. Any further loss would signal Alko and Alice's defeat. In order to protect the remaining ones, they had to split up. Alko lacked power, so she would need to borrow a ploy from Alice and head to Tokawa Sigil, which boasted the greatest local energy supply. Alice would go fully equipped to the sigil in Yashiroki. Free from the constraints of civilized society, magecraft is the most powerful at night. The young witch and the apprentice mage wished each other luck before leaving the mansion. Really? It was almost 10 at night. Witch on the holy night. Oh man. I don't believe we're climax. No, this is not the climax. We're getting there. Was it falling action? I don't know what you call it, bro, but we're not there yet. After the girls set out, the first 2 hours passed quickly. When Alko was ready to head off, Sojiro walked with her to the foyer. Neither had spoken a word to each other. She had departed without showing any sign of fear. It was difficult to tell whether she did not want to get him involved, or whether she did not see him a worthy ally in combat. The thought stuck with him. He let out a long sigh, wow. Not out of dejection or frustration, it was a mechanical and motionless breath. He sat on the near frozen floor, staring vacantly up at the skylight. Moonlight peeked through the clouds. He imagined the moonlight bouncing off the town's powdery blanket and illuminating the night. But he could not find himself downtown. Watching from the sidelines was his role to begin with. His roommates and he lived worlds apart. He could not keep up with them, and if he did not show the same kind of will, he would remain on the sidelines. However,
そうか。この手が必要な時はもうないのか。
Sojiro looked up at the moon. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a trickle of sadness. Veiled in the white, cloaked in darkness, the park seemed like a forgotten memory. It's like a scattered dream. And a scattered dream like a far-off memory. I want to line the pieces up, yours and mine. Not a soul was in sight. The night felt far more enigmatic, than usual, yet the air was clean enough to drink. Ooh, the air was clean enough to drink. I like that. Though only a silver of moonlight peered through the clouds, it lit up the entire world. In those moments, a young girl's footsteps echoed, trampling the still white silence under the midnight sun. The pale moon illuminated the inky blue sky. Only a few street lights and an phone booth portrayed signs of civilization. A girl appeared dressed in black. Against the snowy landscape, the figure of Alice Kuonji was unmistakable. Pure black, deeper even than night. Were her overcoat, gloves, and hat, even her hair and eyes. Nothing stirred for a time. Not Alice nor the white scenery. The world was a still painting of snowy field. Only time moved, gradually darkening the lights in the park, and eventually the nearby homes as well. Yashirogi was a more modern and developed town than Misaki. Though the park was located in the center of town, it had become a blind spot. It had been overlooked by developers and carried no commercial value. A few houses encircled the park. The streetlights turned off at midnight. It was a white night. People, even machines, were fast asleep.
私が先なのね。
Alice whispered, watching the streetlights slowly fade. She thought she heard a dog howling in the distance. Perhaps it was howling at the moon. The howl reached deeper into the night than expected. A wolf, maybe. The phone rang. It was perhaps the first time it had rung since Sojiro moved into the mansion. Hesitantly, he picked up the receiver and brought it to his ear. He heard nothing. He felt he had to say something, but could not think what. Maybe something like Moshi Moshi, Koinji residence. Or maybe you've reached the Awazaki residence. While he was in deep thought, a voice as light as air came through the receiver.
Shizuki.
Sojiro could barely hear the voice, but it was definitely Alice's.
そうだけど、アリス。
No response. The silence was profound as the night. But for the sound of static from the receiver, after a long pause, Alice finally spoke.
いる。
いや、まだ帰ってないけど。
そう。
With a click, the call ended. Sojiro wondered if she had something to say, but could not respond in time. No. Slowly they advanced, carving through the fresh snow. There were so many. Where had they all come from? This reminds me too much of ReZero Season 2. Dozens of Pharaoh's dogs snarled at Alice, their eyes trained on her. The snow clung to the beast's mangy fur. Their clenched fangs and bloodshot eyes It had barely rained hunger that might burst forth like lightning at any moment. They yearned to taste her warm flesh and satiate their empty bellies. To them, the girl in black stood like a lighthouse in a stormy sea. She watched them, disinterested. It appeared that the Yashirogi sigil was a key target tonight, not Tokawa, where Alko had gone. Alice had always been unflappable, and the child's play before her was hardly about to change that. Her main enemy was not the dogs surrounding her, but the lone mage behind them, Toko Awazaki.
ひどい趣味。ここ数年で品が落ちたの。まあ、それならそれで嬉しいけど。これが地金なら、青崎との付き合いもいよいよ白紙に戻せるわ。
Toko laughed at the taunt.
いやいや、これは不可抗力でね。安心しろアリス。間違っても私の趣味じゃない。
Crouching through the fallen snow, Toko slowly came into view. She wore a moss green coat that contrasts sharply with Alice's garb. A silk scarf warmed her neck. She stood tall, her short hair striking a more valiant posture than any young man. After all, the two standing here needed to be less like the shining moon and more like the darkness surrounding it. The barking abated. Like servants in the royal court, they averted their eyes from their ruler, lest their eyes and hearts be plucked out.
久しぶりだね、アリス。
トウコさんもお元気そうで。
They stood about 12 feet apart. No love had been lost between them. Just two enemies, one who was to be victorious and one who was to fall.
さて、どうしようかアリス。積もる話もある。君の近況にも興味がある。そもそも今回の件についていろいろと説明したくてたまらない。5分ほど時間を割いても構わないか？
お断りよ。あなたと5分も話をしていたら、その隙に内臓まで売却されそう。
The following events unfolded quickly. Boldly and without a second's thought, Alice pulled out a cat's bell from the seam of her mantle and dropped it. Diddle, diddle. The beginning of Alice Kuonji's magecraft and the start to a night of fairy tales. Alko favored a quick draw approach, like something from a western. However, Alice preferred sleight of hand. She used her target's blind spots against them, ending the game before they knew it had begun. The bell fell like a coin into a fountain. Then, as it was about to strike the ground, it shattered, disappearing without a trace.
ルーン。
ああ、1日かけて公園中に刻ませてもらった。この公園の道はレンガだからね。手間こそかかったが簡単な仕事だった。周りの森まで見てざっと400平米のキャンバスだ。面白いだろ？今私たちは30万字以上のルーンの上にいる。
Swallowing hard, Alice took a step back. Toko had carved runes all over the ground. Even in the area Diddle reacted alone, there was a depressing amount of them. Had she truly carved them into the whole park? Alice did not react with surprise. She simply narrowed her eyes. She could see how it would have taken the whole day. It was no wonder Diddle Diddle, Banquet of the Night, was destroyed by the skin of the sun. Still, something bothered Alice.
どうやって隠していたの？
There were just so many. What kind of magecraft would do that? Could.
ああ、ちょっと特別性。このルーンね、普段は確定していないんだ。こうしている今も変形している。 パッと見はただの傷跡。それが強い魔力に触れると元の形に立ち戻る。そんなわけで、いかなる夜の深さをもってしてもこの太陽は没しない。この
She spoke modestly, but Alice could not imagine the amount of persistence, technique, and skill it must have taken. And it only took a day. Even 10 mages would have trouble producing so many sophisticated runes in that time. Moreover, these runes were made using unknown techniques the association had not approved.
負け惜しみだけど、私みたいな小娘一人に大人げないわね、瞳子さん。
バカを言うな。君を小娘だなんて一度も思ったことはないよ。まあ、私好みの体だと眠めつけることはあったがね。
Yes! Pull out the mystic eyes! Now we're fighting! Cards on the table, no more poker face. It happened in the blink of an eye. Alice cut off Toko's snide remark with a deadly stare. Like she said, before the game even starts, it's over. I like it. I like how she plays. I like how she plays. The left eye on the darkly clad girl changed color to an ominous ruby. The speed of the incantation, my bad, was phenomenal. Alice's mystic eyes were enthralling, sneered Toko. Is somebody calling me? I'm sorry. I'm getting so many notifications, whatever. What? She had been the one to, quite literally, be taken captive by the girl's stare. She said, I'm not playing. Toko tried to raise her arm, could not even move her finger. Alice's mystic eyes commanded absolute control with no room for resistance. Only a person's internal organs were allowed to move freely. Since their organs still functioned, it was more precise to say that her eyes forbid the target from acting. Alice had played her hand with exquisite timing. It wasn't the speed of her eyes that had given her the edge. The deftness with which she wove her spells to exploit the previous vulnerability is what made Alice a different caliber to other mages like Alco. This witch, who lived hidden in modern era, was more seasoned in magical battles than Toko Aozaki.
だが残念。ディドルディドルが響かないのでは、魔眼のアクロスティック化はできないようだな。欲しいね。あの月目のプロエキシャーなら、これで私の方はお手上げだったろうが。
The formation holding Toko began to distort. Of course it did. In the blink of the eye, the mage had bested Alice's mystic eyes. Alice's black outfit fluttered in the wind. She turned so she was not facing Toko and head on. The mage had recovered through her own mystic eyes. At the root of Toko's mystic eyes was the spell Mesmerize. Most effective when facing their prey. Such eyes would mind jack a target's awareness. It was difficult to resist head on. However, its effect had greatly diminished if the target was not facing the eyes directly, even if it was within range. Moreover, the girl was the last witch of her lineage, who commanded a great number of fairy tales. Against mystic eyes that projected their efforts, simply turning one's body was enough to repel half of the magical energy. What? Like Alice's eyes, Toko's could also disable actions. Alice had escaped by the skin of her teeth. The damage she'd suffer was the weight of a twig to a forest. She just had to let the energy pass through. In an instant, a startling chill ran through Alice's body. Jesus! This was a problem. Oh my. The touch of death ran up her spine. She glared at the mage before her as blue rubber balls flowed out from beneath her overcoat. The stare grew more intense. Alice glared harder, resisting Toko's mystic eyes with her own. Losing was not an option. In terms of raw magical energy, Alice, Koichi's mystic eyes were more powerful than in advance than Toko's. Surely nobody could beat her, and yet her unfiltered stock of magical energy was stifled by old-fashioned values. It was no match for Toko's madness. Jeez, man, the art. Holy. Deep within her eyes, somehow, the eyes revealed the sealed power. We going back in time, what's happening? What in the... Inside the crystalline lens of a mage's left iris was a bottomless pit of Klein cube. What does that even mean? What does this even mean? Alice winced in pain. The bindings grew in number. So many mystic eyes, thousands perhaps, all fixed on Alice. What? Pressure, so much pressure. Endless, and Alice knew it. She saw. Incredulously, she saw eyes growing within eyes. Toko had placed opposing mirrors inside her eyes, resulting in an infinite glare. It was an act of a madwoman, creating mystic eyes within mystic eyes. Come on, like what? Darkness within darkness? She could even control the resulting chaos caused by all the copies. Her insanity knew no bounds. No mage in their right mind would mass produce so many mystics, the last escape of humankind, so indiscriminately.
やれやれ、これもお気に召さないか。私なりにマインスターの真似事をしてみたつもりなんだが、うまくできているだろう。君の悪路のように希少な神秘で現実をねじ曲げるのではなく、量産した神秘で現実をねじ伏せる。物自体はただの魔眼だが、その段数には果てがない。相手がどれほどの魔力抵抗を持っていようと、それ以上の魔力で拘束するだけのものだ。
She wielded power without limit to disable an opponent. Once she was caught in them, one was chained to the concept of infinity. Projection-type eyes had a fatal flaw. Their firepower and formulae were insignificant compared to the great artillery of enchanted spells. Enchanted. Wow. But Toko had torn down the conventional wisdom with brute strength. If the gun was a pea shooter, she simply needed to bring more guns. A 9mm bullet could destroy a fortress, unless one threw a fortress mass of bullets at it. Could never, sorry. The principle was brutishly simple, but in the world of magecraft where the concepts decided supremacy, Toko had created the perfect weapon. The target would be bound until she closed her eyes. In theory, at least, the effects were infinite. No amount of magical energy could overcome it. Ever. So it was utterly futile to resist using magical energy. Of course, one way to counter it would be to stay out of Toko's line of sight to begin with. The standard tactic against mystic eyes was to defeat the user before they were aware of you. There was, however, another way. It was simpler than one might think.
ともあれ、これで罪だ。何か言い残すことは？
Have no magical circuit? Sojiro, coming in clutch? Alice could no longer see her enemy. Toko's infinite eyes had bound her. All she could make out was a silver moonlight, and a blue streak tracing its way towards her. Huh?
結構悔いのない人生で羨ましい。
Not for a single second I believe they're killing Alice. Not for a single second. Nah, I don't believe it. Oh, I already know she's alive. Hold on, Melty Blood. Man, get this out of here. No shot. She drew a rune in the air, unleashing a shockwave to tear flesh asunder. The gusts became blades of air that shredded Alice's overcoat. Word? I'm sorry, what? Don't tell me when Alice said that you could turn the animals to turn into humans, and she looked at Alice that this, no. Oh! Blue feathers fitted all around her. Toko felt something behind her and turned. 5 cat-shaped bells were thrown at her feet. What does it mean? And just as quickly as they shattered to pieces, standing before her was a completely unharmed Alice Cohen. She finishes the battle before you even knew it began! She finishes the battle before you even knew that shit started!
そよ風みたいなルーンね。トウコさん、本当に鈍った？
うつせみか。術者の身代わりになるプロイの話は聞いてなかったな。
ええ。1年のうち365日は役立たずで。どうしてあんなのが古参なのか、私も疑問だけど。
It's our boy! It's our boy, the goat himself! As if responding to Alice's words, a bird began chirping frantically. An anonymous sacrifice. Who killed Cock Robin? Echoed into the night, sung out of tune.
そんな歌もあったな。だがあれは一度に1回しか殺されない。2度目はないし、あったとしても。
The bird squawked, a very unbird-like death threat. From behind Alice, the blue robin fell from its tree, a victim to Toko's mystic eye.
本当に使えない。
That's messed up. Man died for you talking about something so useless.
さて、ではやり直しだ。あとも使えている。これで終わりにしよう、アリス。
そうでもないわ。確かに、今の私にあなたの魔眼は破れない。けれど、Beauty up is wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay. Beauty up is wood and clay, my fair lady.
The song came from the depths of the earth, stirring a mighty quake to mark the birth of something gargantuan. Toko needed to throw Alice into an infinite hell before whatever that was could be completed, but she was far too late.
Wood and clay will wash away, falling down, falling down. Beauty up is big samurai, my fair lady.
He's back! The ground burst to life. A finger, then another, and another, all rising up like towers. Earth, snow, and brick. Okay? Knitted together, manifesting a giant stone golem.
バカな話があるか。なぜこいつが出てきやがる。
Toko was so angry and confused, she could barely gather her thoughts. The bridge giant, the monster from the Mindster's fairy tales, rose from the ground, ruining Toko's plan. The giant was extremely powerful but could only be summoned under one condition. It must be in proximity to a natural river. That makes sense? That was the monster's one and only condition. But this park was nowhere near one. And on top of that, it was rising up directly between Toko and Alice's middle body.
あら、あるでしょう。すぐそこに。川と呼ぶには小さな。すぐに消えてしまうものだけど。
Toko lowered her gaze. She was standing in a puddle of water. Yo! The sacred red mage was dumbfounded. That was why Alice had used Diddle Diddle before. While the bells could be replenished, they were valuable to Alice, as she had spent 5, throwing them into an intentional line of the sun runes to destroy. From there,
気の気の流水か。
The arms of Thames' troll rose up from the stone pavement. The monster's torso alone surpassed 80 feet. Its form was made entirely of stone. Previously, she had created one using the trees of a forest. However, Toko knew instantly the monster before her was at least twice as powerful.
止まれ。
She unleashed her stacked mystic eyes. They were meaningless at this stage. They had no effect on the giant. As said, mystic eyes can be countered in two ways. The first is to hide oneself from view of the mage. This was the standard response. The other way, however, was devilishly simple, yet 100% effective. In fact, it's less of a way, more of a fact. Mystic eyes curse a target by focusing on them. However, what if the target was too large to focus on entirely? The answer was, one could barely stop a single arm. The giant, unfazed, raised its right arm and swung it down onto the ground, destroying thousands of runes. The demolished stones were then absorbed into its arm, adding to its mass. As the mage had said before, no matter how deep the night, these little suns won't set. While the suns might not set, they could be crushed under the bulk of a giant's hands. The victor of the battle was decided. Toko Ozaki closed her eyes and prepared to escape. The stray dogs began to whine, fearful of the hulking figure before them.
参ったな。私ではマインスターには勝てなかったか。まあ、そのあたりは今後の課題としよう。
呆れた。逃げられると思っているの？トウコさん。
まさか。そこまで鈍ってはいないよ、アリス。
I was never here to begin with.
第一、逃げるとしたら、それは私の方じゃないからね。
There was no hint of bravado in Toko's tone. Even in the face of a titan, she had no means of harming her confidence. Her confidence was unshakable. The reason being,
ま、前座は終わりだ。来い、ベオ。
Beowulf. This was no longer a battle of skill. A fight for survival had begun. Snap went to Toko's fingers. In response, a beautifully high-pitched melody floated up toward the moon. It echoed all around them. The spiral howl dredged up ancient primal memories. Its source emerged in the shadows and landed next to the mage. Alice's lip trembled faintly. Not from fear. Is he changing colors actively? Oh, he getting darker. He getting some pigment. But with admiration, once she recognized the creature before her. It was the majestic golden beast, beyond the domain of both magical and phantasmal, simply divine. It was a life that should have passed from the world with the age of gods. A mystic derived from human wisdom, preserved by thousands of generations of hidden tradition. A recreation of a miracle that once freely walked the earth. The natural enemy of magecraft, able to crush it with ease. Quiet resignation settled over Alice's face. The golden beast charged. This time, she didn't have a chance to admit defeat. She could hear the beast's breath, or breathing in her ear. What the fuck? Nah, Alice can't die. No. Nope. Calm down. It seems like she had been unconscious for a short... What the fuck? I have to calm down. Alice opened her eyes and took a deep breath. Yo, stop. Each cough sent pain shooting through her body. Blood rose from the pit of her stomach, and she spat into the cold ground. When her vision returned, she was able to make out the distant sky, falling snow, and the golden wolf. The wolf panted. It stared at Alice, saliva dripping from its mouth onto her cheek. Razor-sharp fangs lined its jaw. Its fur was glossier than that of any animal she had ever seen. Brutal, knife-like claws protruded from its massive, blood-stained paws. And yet, it did not smell like a beast. Surely, the presence of such a noble creature, a human would feel like a lesser animal. The battle between Alice and the wolf was over before it had begun. After destroying the troll, what the it baptized Alice with its wicked claws, giving her no chance to escape. Its side swipe had torn into her abdomen like a sword, carving through her clothes and flesh all the way to her heart. Even so, not once did Alice make a sound. The wolf had pinned her down and stared at her face. Her limbs felt ready to break at any moment. That was the situation she found herself in. Now fully conscious, Alice stared at her enemy through pained eyes. She felt no fear, only cold reality sinking in. This episode is going to end so fast. This episode is going to end so fast. There will be no outro. There will be no double upload. There will be no Youth versus the World. Do not betray me like this. Melty Blood, Witch on the Holy Night, do not betray me like this. Sensing Alice's demeanor, the wolf suddenly paused, his paw still raised. They looked at each other in the eyes. The wolf's voice came as a surprise, but there was no doubt it had spoken. The wolf's voice sounded innocent, almost childlike. In complete contrast to what had happened up to that point, the wolf smiled. Nah, no, I need to see it to believe it. I'm trying my darndest not to start cursing up a storm. Because I don't like cursing. But if you take Alice's neck before God! The wolf opened its mouth wide and clamped its jaws around Alice's neck. Motherfucker. Stop it! That's why I said I need to see it first. I knew Alice wasn't gonna fucking die. I said it anyway. I fucking said it. Twice. I couldn't help it. They're playing with my emotions. Playing this sad music, showing me the worst scene I never thought I'd see in a million years. Alice has always been my girl. Alice has always been the number one. You take her, I need a refund. Toko's tone was sharper than the wolf's fangs. The wolf froze. He let go and slowly turned his head toward the voice.
余計な仕事を増やす気か、バカもん。それはそれで楽しいのに。ああ、退屈。話に聞いた橋の巨人も結局は他の生き物と一緒だったし。
The wolf backed away from Alice, as if no longer interested in its prey. To the golden beast, she was little more than an old chew toy.
なんだ、もう意識が戻ったのか。心もタフなら体も大概だな。骨まで砕いてその程度の出血とは。
Barely clinging to life, Alice stared at Toko. But not a stare of hatred and defeat, but one of disbelief. Alice simply wondered why Toko had brought such a beast.
ああ、紹介が遅れたな。彼はおそらく地上で現存している最後の人狼だ。北欧の奥地に生きる彼らの一族の中に現れた生粋の原種だよ。見ての通り、先祖返りなんて言葉じゃ表せない黄金の神秘でね。名前がなかったんで分かりやすくベオウルフと呼んでいる。
ベオウルフ。
Alice's face was perplexed, even though she hadn't wavered when she was disemboweled. Beowulf, the name of the heroic giant slayer from Danish legend. It came from Old English, a combination of honeybee and wild beast. A bear, in other words.
なんでそんなちぐはぐな名前を。
いや、可愛いからに決まってるだろ。
Perhaps because of the name, or because of the golden beast itself. Fighting the pain, Alice struggled to read Toko. In this respect, she was worse than Alko.
ついでに説明しておくと、周りの犬どもはベオが勝手に呼び寄せたものだ。私自身、マインスターの娘がただの畜生に傷つけられるとは思ってはいないよ。今のところはね。
Toko's mouth twisted into a grin. Not the warm one Sojiro saw, but the merciless smile a victor displays to a loser. The disdain in Alice's eyes turned to anger. The golden mystic. How could Toko have brought such a creature into the human world?
何？需要と供給だよ。過疎化は人間だけの問題じゃない。彼らもいい加減昔ながらの生活には限界が来たらしくてね。と言ってもあくまで里から出すだけの権利だがね。お察しの通り、私の髪はベオとの契約に使い切った。自分の髪を使って分身を作るより強大な怪物を縛り付けた方がよっぽど健全。
While she was talking, Toko noticed something strange. An unusual sound. A preternatural sound that tore at the mind. A sound that should not have existed. It was coming from the girl's open ad. Is she putting herself back together? Oh my god, she's such a badass, bro. Yes.
何この匂い。トウコさん、なんかワクワクすること起きてない？
Curious, Beowulf moved closer, like a puppy examining a new toy.
見るな、あっちに行っていろ、ベオ。正気を失っても知らんぞ。
Toko shooed the mutt away with her hand. Beowulf lowered his head meekly and withdrew.
教育方針を間違ったかな。まったく、乙女の腹を見ようなんて恥を知れ、恥を。
トウコさんだって見てるじゃない。
バカ、私は乙女だからいいんだ。
If Alko had been there, she would have blasted them away for their impudence, just as she did with Flatstorm.
しかしむごいな。こんなになるまで放っておくとは。マインスターは人の親とは言えまいよ。
With her gloved hand, Toko ran her fingers along the wounds of Alice's abdomen. A flash of pain ran through Alice's body. Alice had held in her screams, but she finally let out a long breath. She turned away, in pain or shame.
ほら、もう肌も復元している。骨格、血管はおろか、内臓にまで施されたおびただしいまでの刻印だ。生後、肉体に魔術回路を付加することは諸刃の剣だ。呪文と自分を一体化させることにより栄唱の手間を省き、術者に多大な利点をもたらす魔術刻印。しかしそれは多ければ多いほど苦痛を伴う。青崎の刻印は腕一本分。まあ君に比べれば少ない方だな。
The magic crest Toko referred to was the inheritance of the Awazaki's family, passed down by their ancestors. They can only be inherited. Aoko had received the ones that were meant for Toko.
しかし、それも良し悪しだな。右腕に刻印をした青子の痛みは、残る人間の体と神秘となった右腕とが反発する程度だ。通常の肉体が右腕を否定し、末梢にかかる痛み。
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
3つ、精神的にも肉体的にも生じる幻痛は、現在にも似て拭い去ることはできない。だが、ここまで来ると痛みも何もあるまい。そもそも生きている実感はあるのか？自分が人間だとまだ信じている？ああ、本当に。お互い非凡な死を持つと苦労するね、アリス。
Toko took Alice's body in her arms. The wounds from Beowulf had mostly healed. Even so, her breathing was shallow, likely due to the pain. Toko gently held the girl's face in her hand.
マインスターには恩がある。それに、私の相手はあくまで青子一人だ。
Well, that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of What's in the Holy Night. I will not be coming back to the series. It's ending out of nowhere, just like the Kingdom Hearts randomizer. This is probably going to become a trend on the channel. You're going to see me come to a point where it's like, damn, I just can't beat it anymore. And like, no matter how I try, I just can't keep moving forward. So I think it's smart for me, not only for my mental health, but also for your enjoyment of the channel overall and its legacy. You know, I don't delete these videos, so if I were to keep going, I would probably break down and become an insanely mentally ill person. And honestly, we don't need another one of those on the internet. I need to take care of myself first, and I think you should all do that too. So I'll be gone maybe 5 years, 17, maybe 40 once they make a sequel to this game and show me something new. You know, I don't. Maybe if they add Alice to Melty Blood, I'll forgive him. Maybe there is no forgiveness. Maybe forgiveness is the weak man's potion. Maybe it's easy to forgive. It is harder to hate, isn't it? Well, I hate. I hate so goddamn much. Alice's lungs pinned for oxygen. Toko pressed her lips to hers. The young girl wriggled, trying to escape, but Toko held her firmly. Beneath the blue moon, the two remained frozen. Then the sound of swallowing. Something solid slid down Alice's throat. With that, she went limp and her arm fell. After setting Aoko down on her side, Toko stood up.
今のは七かまどに手を加えた私の特製品だ。そう簡単に解毒はできない。 魔力を流せば体の中で暴発する仕組みになっているから気をつけなさい。ああ、口移しは私の趣味だから特に気にすることはないよ。
As she desperately clung to consciousness, Alice looked up at Toko from the ground. The disgrace from the kiss was greater than the pain she felt in her body. Toko began walking away, with her golden wolf in tow. Neither looked back to see Alice's hateful glare.
そうそう、一つ言い忘れていた。ベオが呼び寄せた野犬たちだけどね。公園の外にまだ山ほどいるんだが、困ったことに彼らは本来何を口にするべきかを思い出している。
Alright, I'm tired of this. Sojiro, can you hurry your dumbass
ベ
up,
オの野
bro?
生に
Please?
刺激されたんだろう。獣はより
Shut up. In a roundabout way, Toko had read Alice her last rites. No, she didn't. Shut up, I don't
じ
care.
ゃあ私は行くよ。
Alright, whatever, go home. Sojiro, please. With a twisted grin, the mage walked into the darkness. Whatever, who cares? Alright, no, I'm not reading that shit. Just show me Sojiro, please. Alice could barely focus her eyes, whatever. The hounds looked like monsters out of a picture book. Yeah, cool. Good. Interesting. Alice took a deep breath and her conscience slipping away. The sky was blue, the trees were tall. Yeah, whatever. The park was not a graveyard, not for her at least. In the corner of her eye, though, Alice could just about make out a solitary phone booth. That's where our Deus Machina comes in. Let's go, Sojiro! It's always been us, hasn't it? Since the first episode. It was the second time Sojiro had heard the voice echo through the cold foyer. Only a few minutes had passed since Alice called. He wondered what she could want this time. The call persisted, determined not to leave him to his thoughts.
はい、クオンジですが。
あら、その声は宗十郎くん？
Why are we here? Why do we keep fighting? Why? A cheery voice. Sojiro had been expecting Alice. It was Toko Aozaki. Somehow, Sojiro was not surprised.
そうですけど、トウコさん、暇なんですか？
He checked the time. He thought it was about midnight by now. No matter what the situation, Sojiro always kept his cool. He could hear Toko trying to stop or suppress her laugh. And Toko, after taking a while to compose herself, she started talking
ご
again.
めんなさい。ちょっとツボ入っちゃったみたい。で、質問の開始ね。これがあんまり暇じゃないな。私も今日で終わらせる予定だから忙しいんだ。
偶然ですね。青崎もそんなことを言ってました。
やっぱりそうね。こういう時は本当に姉妹だなって思うわ。昔からエンジンかけるタイミングだけは一緒だったから、あのことは。ところで、青崎はやめてって言ったでしょ。私も青崎だからくすぐったいのよね。そう言われるの。
Sojiro realized she was probably right. Naozaki's words made more sense now.
まあそんなわけだから長話をする気はないんだ。単刀直入に聞くけど。
It almost sounded like she was worried about her sister's whereabouts. But the cool-headed Sojiro had not forgotten Tokyo was their enemy. Keeping Alko and Alice in mind, he decided to be evasive.
さあ、なんて答えてほしいんですか、トウコさんとしては。
The question shifted the tone of the conversation drastically. Sojiro could hear Toko muttering to herself in annoyance. Sojiro was proving more quick-witted than she had anticipated. A change of tact was required.
そうね。君には何も答えてほしくないっていうのが正解かな。第一印象で君を無視するのは良くない気がしてたけど、やっぱり私は宗十郎くんを手にかけたくはないみたい。君はこのまま無関係でいてちょうだいね。
A warning came from the heart. Sojiro responded flatly, once again, not giving any sign either way. It seemed she wanted him to stay out of this too. Even Sojiro could tell the girls were being kind in their own way. But who asked for their kindness?
じゃあさよならね。私は君が思ってるほど暇じゃないから。でも最後に一つだけ。君を試すようで悪いんだけど、伝えておかないと一生恨まれそうだし。なんでそうならないように責任の半分を君に押し付けちゃおうかな。
Yeah, you can see it. A laugh? Yeah, I don't care.
さっきクオンジさんに会ってきたの。彼女から電話があったでしょ。
Her tone had not changed. She sounded as cordial as before. Even so, as Sojiro heard Alice's name, a chill ran down his
彼
spine.
女、今ひどい状態なんだ。満足に歩けないどころか、体中の刻印が活性化して破裂寸前。宗十郎くんが骨折の痛みを知ってるなら、うまい例えようがあるんだけどね。まあ、ともかくだ。いつ気を失ってもおかしくない状態なんだけど、災難なことに怖い野犬に囲まれてるみたいなの。個人的な意見だけど、10分もあれば。
She spoke as if she was telling a joke. If it was a joke, it was in bad taste. However, Sojiro knew this was anything but. She was telling the truth. He had not heard of dogs attacking anyone in town, but the noise he heard while on the phone with Alice suddenly made sense. Dogs, a pack of them. No doubt about it. They were surrounding their prey. Why he had not caught on sooner? What is that really? Wait. When people say no, why didn't you catch on? Why didn't you? It's not cotton. I'm sorry. Squeezing the receiver in his phone, Sojiro cursed himself. Alice had been calling for help. Even when backed into a corner, she had not wanted to involve Sojiro. She still needed help. The way she said his name so lightly. He spoke abruptly. Even though he knew Toko was the enemy, he had confidence she would answer him. That was the reason she called.
教えてあげてもいいけど、そうした瞬間に君は私の敵になるのよ。
Sojiro realized what was happening. He was being tested. By ignoring Alice, he would be confirming that he did not want to get involved. But if he decided to save her,
場所は
Sojiro ignored Toko's question. Of course, he was not prepared to become her enemy, but he was even less prepared to let Alice die. He had lost his ability to think sensibly. Not that he was particularly good about that to begin with. Still, he would not waste any time in deliberation. He would simply go with his instincts. It was one of the few times he had felt pride since coming down from the mountains.
ちょっと残念だな。私は本当に君が気に入ってたのに。まあ、こうなることは分かってたけどね。場所はヤシロギの森林公園。受話器の下に地図があるでしょ。この前帰りがけにしおりを挟んでおいたから、それを参考にすること。繰り返すようだけど、10分持てば幸運。その後は1分ごとに奇跡の価値が上がるような状況よ。
As he listened, Sojo's expression turned to one of irritation. Misaki and Yashirogi were one station apart. How long would it take to get from the station to the mansion? Usually just under 12 minutes. By the time he got off the train at Yashirogi, nearly 30 minutes would have
地
passed.
図の上じゃ近いのに、区画整理された交通手段は不便よね。けど、急げば最終の電車には間に合うわ。ここで諦めた方が賢明だけど、君はもう私の敵だから。どっちにしたって後悔のないようにね。
The line went dead. Sojiro, not Toko, had hung up on the phone. He mesmerized the map and made for the door. With no time to grab his coat, he ran out into the snowy winter night with the clothes he had on. All that remained in the hall was the discarded map. It showed Misaki City. It was about 10 miles from the mansion to the nature park. 5 if you went in a straight line. But the streets were not that forgiving. 4 inches on the map, but so much farther in reality. For the first time, Sojiro cursed the town. Alice's injuries were not limited to her abdomen. The wolf had punched a hole straight through her back, crushing her lower vertebrae and leaving both her legs paralyzed. Though her magic circuit were repairing the damage, it would likely take another hour before recovery. At the very least, her heart and slender arms still worked. Although after crawling along the ground to the phone booth, those too were failing her. As the crest's wounds healed her wounds, a sneering heat went through her body that threatened to overwhelm her. It was as if her body was no longer her own, like she was transforming into another creature. The poison throbbing from her through her open wounds hurt emotionally more than physically. She was used to pain, but she could not accept this disquieting feeling. Not that she had any intention to. The moment she did it would be her last. Alice wrestled with the discomfort from her abdomen and her magic crest. And with her consciousness holding on by a thread, she took the phone in her hand. It was unlikely Alco would be the pickup. Even so, with the stray dogs gathered around the booth, she had to try. It was Sojiro who picked up. Alice knew she was better off just hanging up, but his name slipped out of her mouth. After pausing and fighting with herself for some time, an image of the innocent boy came to mind when she hung up. Her instincts had won. She could not let him get involved. And not just because he was an innocent bystander. It was more than that. To Alice, Sojiro appeared that day because he was merely in the wrong place at the wrong time. The goat. Only the lightest of breaths passed her lips. Above her, the moon began to blare. Snow was falling again. So close, yet so far. The dogs began hurling themselves at the phone booth, to the chorus of hungry snarls. Thunk, thunk. She took one last deep breath and closed her eyes. Glass, an unusual material for a coffin. But the girl knew, in some corner of her mind, that she had made the right choice not to ask the boy for help. Some time passed. A peculiar sight came into view. A field of wild flowers. The clear sky was too blue. The flowers so numerous they made the field look barren. The sight was so dazzlingly beautiful, she wished she could look away. This was probably all thanks to Father Winter. The cold wind carried a scent of paradise, far removed, untainted by man or beast. It was a glimpse of the fields beyond winter. One could be forgiven for thinking they were the afterlife. Come to think of it, she remembered how funerals were sad, yet always beautiful. She cried. She made an encouraged whine, a sound of life. Her breathing was strained and erratic. Hollow and useless was the heart that she once used to feed off pain. I know it said "Fen, leave me alone." It was as though she was in the space between disconnected body and mind. A crying woman and a silent child. High was the sky, deep was the forest, unmoving were the people. No footsteps or voices of salvation came. Who was that looking innocently up at the sky of stillness? When she came to, Alice was going up a familiar hill. The cold night air had all but frozen her hands or feet. She shook, as you would expect from someone whose abdomen had been torn apart. Yes, I told you! You thought bro, come on. If you thought Alice was gonna die, clearly you haven't been watching the entire series. Come on. Oh, I'm dropping stuff. I'm scared. She could barely cup her hand as she was being carried slowly up Shiro Inuzuka. Oh, I don't know what the thumbnail is supposed to be. Oh my god. Sojiro had Alice on his back and was silently ascending the slope. His calm eyes seemed to be suffering from the bitter cold. He did not seem to be dressed for the time of year. I guess this kind of spoils the episode, so this won't be the intro or the thumbnail. Not even his coat. Not even a coat. His exposed neck and hands were ice cold. Alice asked, still slumped over his frame. She tried to move, but to no avail. The last thing she wanted was the rest of her entire weight on someone else.
トウコさんから電話があった。アリスが危ないって。青崎はともかく、アリスは意地を張りすぎだ。あの状況で助けを呼ばないのはどうかしてる。そりゃ、自分が言っても何もできなかっただろうけど。
Sojiro spoke with a scolding tone. His eyes kept firmly ahead. His words were directed at himself rather than the girl on his back.
しずきくんは関係ないもの
だろうね。けどこれで関係はできた。館に着いたら話してもらうぞ。
Sojiro focused on climbing the hill. The slope would get steeper from here to the mansion. The thought of Sojiro climbing the steep hill with her on his back surprised Alice.
降りるわ。もう大丈夫だから。
お腹をむき出しでかい。この方が少しは暖かいよ。それにアリスは薪より軽い。山じゃこの程度は朝飯前だから気にしないでくれ。
Actually the best character in fiction.
公園まで急いだからだし。まあその意味はなかったんだが。
なぜ？
俺が着いたら犬はさっさと散っていった。初めからトウコさんはそういうつもりだったんだ。アリスをどうにかするつもりもなければ時間制限もなかった。喜ぶべきことなんだろうけど。
Sojiro said dejectedly, but he was wrong. While Toko did not want to kill Alice per se, she would not have cared if she had died. At least, that was the way Alice saw it. She did not know how long it took Sojiro to get to the park, but if he had not come, the phone booth would have collapsed and she would be dead. Alice did her best to suppress her thoughts and feelings. She felt silly at the thought of correcting him, and it would matter little anyway. The thought of her trying to thank him was more painful than her open wounds.
もしかして公園からずっと。
仕方ないだろう。電車終わってたんだから。タクシーを使えばよかったんだけど、あいにく持ち合わせがなくて。ほんと、今日ほどお金の不便さを思い知った日はない。
For the first time today, Sojiro let out a sigh. There was no point in taking a break. He had already traveled close to 6 miles like this. Perhaps the fatigue was getting to him. Sojiro was more upset with his own weakness than the difficulty of the trek.
でもそれを言うならお金の大切さじゃない。
使えるものがあるのにお金がないだけで使えないんだから、それって不便って言わないか
？The innocence of his question made Alice briefly forget her pain. She too felt distant from the real world. But compared to the boy carrying her, she felt like a regular citizen.
何かあなたらしいわ。
Alice smiled to herself. As Alice rested her head, something soft touched her cheek. The collar Alko had given her.
館に着いたら着替えるんだ。お腹の血も拭って。落ち着いたら今で話そう。 瞳子さんに言わせれば俺もこれで敵らしいから。
With those words hanging in the air, they reached the top of the hill. The gate in the woods stood before them. Beyond it, illuminated by the pale moonlight, stood the mansion. Looking up at it, the girl felt a little disappointed. A natural reaction, yet she could not place where her sadness was coming from. Once they entered the mansion, Alice slid off Sojuro's back and walked towards the west wing. The west wing was her domain. However, only after a few steps she collapsed.
Alice!
Sojuro rushed over to her, but she raised her hand. Her gesture told him not to come closer. He stopped in his tracks, a concerned look on his face. Her pale skin gleamed with sweat. Her expression uncharacteristically strained.
平気。部屋に戻るぐらいの力は戻ったわ。服を作ろってくるから、あなたはここにいて。すぐに戻ってくるから。そうしたら。
The pained look on Alice's eyes told Sojuro they would talk later. He knew he could not stop her. Sojuro reminded himself that she was the one in pain, not him.
それじゃあ戻ってきたら話を聞かせてくれ。
Alice took a deep breath before slowly disappearing down the corridor. An uneventful 5 minutes passed. Alice returned wearing a fresh set of black clothes, and her complexion remained pallid. With a small sigh, she carefully leaned against the pillar in the foyer and slid down until she was sitting.
アリス、傷が痛むなら無理せず横になった方がいい。
Sojuro sat across from her on the cold floor.
傷はもう痛まないわ。横になる必要もない。この体の異常は七かまどを飲まされたせいだから。どう？
じゃあせめて毛布とか。
いいから気遣いはしないで。ここな。
I keep skipping it. I'm so sorry. She seemed to be telling the truth. Sojuro remembered Aoko telling him that as long as Alice is inside the mansion, she would be comfortable.
あったかいのならいい。それで七かまどっていうのは
薬草の一種よ。7回かまどで焼いても燃え残ることから付けられた名前で、紅葉は魔除け。普通の人には良くない程度だけど、私や青子には少し厄介ね。体内での魔力生成そのものに抵抗されてしまうから手の打ちようがない。
毒と思っていいのか？
いえ、本来は薬草よ。今は傷を治すために魔力を使っているから苦しいけど、傷が完治すればおとなしくなるわ。魔術さえ使わなければ七かまども反応しないから。単純な話、七かまどを消化するまで私は役には立たないだけ。
Alice paused. She decided not to stay or say how many days that would take.
別にしずきくんが心配することじゃないわ。こんなの血が流れる程度の痛みだから。
She worked hard to keep her tone calm. Aoko had barely blinked when she was struck in the back, so mages must have an unusually high pain threshold. Sojuro was surprised and bewildered by what she said. If wounds didn't count as long as the pain wasn't too bad, then nothing would hurt except an injury that killed you.
わかった。話をするのは明日にしよう。今日はとにかく体を休めてほしい。
明日になっても私の容体は変わらないけど。
いいんだ、それでも。アリスはもっと体を大事にしてくれ。
He stood up.
部屋まで送るよ。それとも今で休むか？西館には入ったことはないから アリスの部屋もわからないし。
ここでいいわ。青子を待たなくちゃいけないから。
Alice looked up at the skylight. The moonlight illuminated her pained face. The foyer looked like it belonged to a rundown castle. Only the moon and Alice seemed more vivid than reality. Where did her strength come from? Sojiro stared at her. Without understanding the significance of Alice's gaze, he turned his gaze to the night sky, powerless as it was. Oh my, for the third time that night, the silence is broken by the sound of the phone ringing. Before Sojiro could move, a thin shadow bolted across the foyer. By the time he realized it was the weakened Alice, she had already taken the receiver in her hand. It was the first time Sojiro had heard Alice sound concerned. Her tone was infinitely graver than when she was enduring her own pain. Alice's question received a short response from the voice on the other end. It was a voice far more frail than Alice's, like a flickering flame about to turn to smoke. The phone was far from Sojiro's ears, but the words he picked up were very unlike her. Despite saying so little, no, because she had said so little, the weight of Alice's defeat, Aoko's defeat struck Sojiro hard. Alice silently set down the receiver. Only moments before her body had been fighting the pain, now it felt stronger than ever. It was like a scarecrow transforming into a beautiful stone statue. Seeing this, Sojiro finally understood. Alice's expression when she looked at the moon had come from her trying to accept an immutable reality. Even snow, which on the holy night won. We will start the next episode, of course. Not the next episode, the next video. Damn. Yeah, they got me in this one. I'm not gonna lie, maybe perhaps a tear might have fallen down from my eye. That's just a theory though, man. It's accusations, all right? No evidence. Damn. The theming, the music, this revenge story about to be crazy. I don't even know what to say. We're going right back into it, right? I mean, it's double upload. You know, oh, it ends here. The cliffhanger. No. You guys are so lucky that I suck at being a YouTuber and I missed last week's upload and I said I want a double upload for you guys. So you're going to get a double upload. That being said, it's done for me today at least. Man, I don't even know what to say. I guess I'll just leave you guys to the next upload and not take up too much of your time. Youth Prince of Tono, remember, there's no such thing as hard, just how long you win the fight.
Ha 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 ha.